Hey guys, welcome to Lux Paris. Today's video is all about the Louis Vuitton notebook cover Paul. I'll go ahead and share my thoughts and impressions on this notebook, and I'll let you know if I think the notebook Paul as well as the Louis Vuitton Clemence notebooks are worth the cost. So if that sounds like something you're interested in watching, I hope you'd consider subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. So without further ado, let's get started. So here I have the beautiful Louis Vuitton notebook cover Paul. I've owned this particular notebook for about a couple of years now. This notebook is only available in the classic monogram print. Every single year, Louis Vuitton will have a Christmas animation version of the notebook cover Paul. However, this particular notebook is readily available year-round. So what I like about the notebook cover Paul is the fact that it features this beautiful gold hardware and it has an S-lock closure. So this one is very different than other Louis Vuitton notebook covers. So you have Louis Vuitton Paris engraved on the gold hardware, and you have a very minimal piece of vachette leather. You open up the notebook cover, it features a beautiful cherry red lining. You also have Louis Vuitton Paris made in France stamped towards the front. So it just features one large pocket so that you can insert your notebook on one end. No other pockets on the front cover. And here's a view of the back of the notebook. So it's very similar to the front. The only difference is you don't have the Louis Vuitton Paris made and stamped towards the back. So as you guys can see, no organization or other pockets besides these two pockets that come with this particular notebook. So this is strictly for you to store your notebook. So I currently have this Louis Vuitton lined notebook refill inside of the notebook cover Paul. So this is a second one that I purchased as a backup. And what I love about these notebooks is, number one, the fact that they are lined. You also have a page marker. So they are the most affordable notebooks that you can purchase from Louis Vuitton. Here you can see the beautiful gold foil on the edges. So now let's talk about my thoughts and impressions and if I think the notebook cover Paul is worth the cost. So in terms of cost, it's going to cost you less than the Louis Vuitton Desk Agenda. So it's about $10 less than the Louis Vuitton Desk Agenda. So if you don't necessarily need a desk agenda and you're looking for something small and compact, I highly recommend the notebook cover Paul. However, the GM and MM size agenda cost more than the notebook cover Paul. So that is something to keep in mind. The least expensive agenda or cover from Louis Vuitton would be the PM size. In terms of pros, I love the opening and closure of this notebook. So it's a very strong S-lock closure. It's very secured, so you don't have to worry about your notebook slipping out. Love that about this particular notebook. And I also love the price point. As I mentioned, it is going to cost you less than the other traditional Louis Vuitton agendas. In terms of cons, the only con that I have, as beautiful as this piece of gold hardware is on the front of the notebook, you do have to worry when you do lay it flat to write down. As you guys can see, I have yet to lay it flat throughout the course of this video because of the fact I don't want the gold hardware to scratch. And I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick that up, but as you guys can see, I still have my protective sticker on the gold hardware. So that is something that you want to be mindful of, especially if you're writing on this side of the notebook. When you're writing on this side, you're not going to have any issues. It lays super flat, but the hardware does get in the way of your desk. So I would recommend laying this on a soft surface or utilizing this on your bed, not necessarily on a hard top desk like this desk, because you are going to have significant wear and tear and scratches on this gold hardware. And also start writing on this side of the notebook, especially towards the edge where the gold hardware is featured. It gets very difficult to write on that edge because it's not even. So that's why I recommend utilizing this notebook on a soft surface. Now you're probably wondering, what do I utilize this particular notebook for? You can utilize it for journaling, and that's how I've used it. I went ahead and removed my other Louis Vuitton notebook that I had in here, obviously for personal reasons, but I like to use this particular notebook cover for journaling, and you can also utilize it as an agenda. So for those of you that prefer a disc bound agenda, I would definitely recommend this notebook cover. However, you want to be mindful of the measurements to ensure that your disc bound notebook will align perfectly inside of this notebook cover. As far as wear and tear is concerned, as I mentioned, I've owned this piece for about 2 years. So you do have glazing at the top, but I haven't experienced any issues as of yet with the glazing. So here's a top view. Here's a look at the side. And as you guys can see, the vachette leather is fairly light. So for those of you that are not a big fan of patina, you're not going to have to worry about too much patina with this piece because the vachette leather is very minimal. However, you will get some patina, but it won't be as prominent. And here's a look at the back of the notebook cover. Now, if you're not going to be utilizing the notebook cover paw as an agenda and you want a more affordable option for journaling, the first recommendation that I have, as I mentioned earlier, would be the classic Louis Vuitton refill lined notebook, but it's definitely the least expensive out of the notebooks that are currently featured in front of you today. This is also great for journaling, and you don't necessarily need a cover for this piece. It looks beautiful as is without a cover. Next, we have the Clemence notebook collection. Every single year during the holidays, Louis Vuitton will come out with a different Christmas animation and also seasonal. So I know this year they currently have a beautiful orange pastel Clemence notebook that is available. So you can get them in a variety of different options or prints if you're into Christmas animation. I'm not a big fan of Christmas animations, but there was something about this illustration that I love. So I decided to go ahead and purchase it. I can't recall which year this particular notebook came out, but I know I've had it in my collection for over a year. This is also great for journaling. One of the great things about the Clemence notebooks is the fact that they have different illustrations throughout. So if you're the type of person that likes color, you love illustration, I highly recommend these notebooks. Now, the thing about these notebooks, the pages aren't refillable. So that's one of the reasons why I would only recommend purchasing these notebooks for journaling. I wouldn't recommend it for notes, especially if you're not going to be referring back to your notes and you don't plan on keeping this notebook. But if you want to catalog your journaling or your thoughts, I highly recommend these notebooks. Now, the Clemence notebooks cost significantly less than the notebook cover paw. In terms of if I think it's worth the cost, if you are going to utilize it for journaling and you're going to catalog your journaling notebook, I highly recommend the Clemence notebook. If not, I wouldn't recommend them because they are pretty steep just for a notebook. I went ahead and purchased it as a collector's piece. So to be honest with you guys, this is not a piece that I'm planning on utilizing. And as you guys can see, I have a relatively small notebook collection because of the fact that I know I won't be utilizing these notebooks. They're more of a collector's piece. I only buy the ones that I'm super interested in or intrigued by. So that is one of the reasons why you won't see too many of these notebooks in my collection. They are very steep, yes, for a notebook. But as I mentioned, if you're a stationery lover or you like to journal, then this one is definitely worth your cost. So here we have another notebook that I received as a Christmas gift from one of my client advisors. And I believe I received this 2 or 3 years ago. Again, this is a collector's piece for me. I didn't purchase this one, but I'm super grateful that I was gifted this beautiful lined notebook. So as you guys can see, this one does not have any illustrations. It's just blank line pages, very similar to the notebook refill. Here is the last Clemence notebook that I have in my collection, but this was a part of a summer collection. As I mentioned, I wasn't crazy about this collection in terms of purchasing it as a handbag or small leather good, but there was just something about this print on this Clemence notebook that made my heart sing. So I decided to go ahead and add it to the collection. I'm very happy that I did. It features a beautiful rose ballerine interior. And as you guys can see, the pages are also lined. The only difference is this one has a very light pink foil, whereas the Christmas animation version has the gold foil. A couple of other things to keep in mind when it comes to your selection of the Clemence notebooks. The Christmas animation versions typically cost a little bit more than the seasonal versions, and they sometimes include stickers. So this particular notebook came with 2 sheets of stickers. So that may be the reason why Louis Vuitton is justifying the slight price increase on the Christmas animation versus the seasonal version. And here's a size comparison of the notebook cover Paul alongside the desk agenda. So as you guys can see, the desk agenda is slightly taller than the notebook cover Paul and wider. Here they are on top of each other, so you can get another view of the size comparison. Here we have a side view, so again, you guys can see the significant difference in size. In terms of which one I would recommend between the notebook cover and the desk agenda, if you are looking for an agenda, I highly recommend getting the desk agenda because of the fact that it only costs $10 more than the notebook cover Paul, and you do have more pockets and organizations inside of the desk agenda in comparison to the notebook. If you're not in the market for an agenda and you're just looking for something simple or basic for journaling or to capture your notes, then I highly recommend the notebook cover Paul. That concludes my review and thoughts and impressions on the Louis Vuitton notebook cover Paul and Clemence notebooks. I hope you found this video helpful. As always, I thank you so much for tuning in to Lux Paris, and I will chat with you guys on my next video.